All right. Here we go, guys and gals. And boogity, boogity, boogity. Let's go racing, drivers.
Welcome back to the Loose Wheels Show. I'm Andrew Hazlett. That's Ethan Ignatowski.
What's up?
Back for episode number 10 of season number 3, into double digits now. It feels like we're further along than we are. I don't know why. But
it really does.
Anyway, into the reviews.
And now for last week's race reviews.
We were at Phoenix Raceway last weekend. If you didn't know that, I'd like to know what rock you're living under. But regardless of that, we check out the social content. Ethan and I asked a lot of questions to multiple drivers and a crew chief as well, so that was always fun.
That was very fun. Yeah, very fun weekend. Always fun being out there making content for the socials. So yeah, we are more than just sitting here in studio talking radio. When we do get the chance to go out to Phoenix Raceway, we take that opportunity, make some fun social content for you guys. Made some prediction videos that you can see, made some recap videos that you can see, but we still are going to go over the weekend a little bit here. Yeah,
and I may or may not have ran again. Not a runner, but that is
if you know, you know. You can also just go on Instagram and find it out.
You should pin that. Pin it next to the
other one?
Yeah.
All right, I'll do that right now. We got so the Loose Wheel Show on Instagram, and then at TLW Show on Twitter. Just to make everyone remember. Pin to main grid.
ARCA. Well, we had ARCA happen on Friday. Corey Day won on a overtime. No, not Corey Day. Brent Cruz. Wrong.
Where did you get Corey Day from?
Wrong young talented prospect from the wrong manufacturer. On a bump and run from bumping Butterbean Queen.
Yeah, those two were going back and forth all race.
Yeah, we saw known sleepers Jesse Love and Connor Zilic on pit road during the race.
We did. I wanted to get a quick little video of those guys. Would have been fun, but I wasn't thinking. We're recording?
Yeah, we are recording.
Okay, just want to make sure. PTSD.
Anyway, going into Xfinity Series Eric Almirola won on an overtime bump and run on Alex Bowman. We are giving an award away today. It is the ARCA Breaks Moment of the Week. This one is for Mr. Austin Hill this week. For, I'm not quite sure what it's quite simple. What he did was he turned left in a turn, which is something you should do, except that he kept turning left into the inside wall,
which
caused him to wreck.
That's turning left a little too much. We all know NASCAR, big fans of turning to the left, but, there's like all good things, there's a point where it becomes too much, Andrew. You can't turn left all the way.
So you're telling me I can't have ice cream for breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day?
Well, I'm not your parents. I would advise against it.
Can't have too much ice cream, apparently. You heard it here from Ethan Ignatowski. High analysis. Anyway, into the actual race, William Byron wins, led from pole. You had Catherine Legg spin out.
Did you talk about Xfinity?
I did. Eric Almirola won. I did mention that. Catherine Legg spun on her debut, and I thought about giving an award out for all those clowning on her on social media. Y'all wouldn't do better, because honestly, spinning out is a sign that she's doing good, because you're supposed to test the limit of the race car. And if you aren't spinning out, that means you're slow.
Yeah, she was pushing to the limit. She was lapping at a faster pace than a handful of drivers. I don't remember who all of them were, but I do remember that SVG was one of them. And no one's arguing about, if he deserves to be in the Cup Series or not. So she was lapping at a fairly fast rate. It's just, she had like 12 days to prepare for this race. She had like 30 minutes of practice time, one lap of qualifying, and then she was running pit stops for Hendrick. So she had no experience going into this. So I don't think that anyone can judge her too harshly. That's just unfair. I mean, she's a proven driver. She's done so much stuff in her career. Like to clown her over spinning a couple of times in her Cup Series debut just proves that you don't know anything.
And
in my personal opinion.
I agree. And remember, it's a live fast car. It isn't very good. Live fast outside of super speedways. I'm going to do some quick research on Live Fast's top finish outside of super speedways and road courses was I believe that's a super speedway at that point. It was a 19th in the Coca-Cola 600. And that BJ McLeod set. And then your next best finish on that type of track, I might have been a 22nd on the California Auto Club Speedway, which now doesn't exist. Also, 22 is 22nd from BJ McLeod at Texas as well. So a 22nd is looking to be the best possible finish. At the end of the day, that's remember, that's not a fast car.
No.
So people don't realize the obvious. Anyway, race went on. Cole Custer got into Todd Gilliland, who spun the Ricky Stenhouse car, who then spun Cole Custer in a wreck, which all cars were able to continue, but set up a restart where Joey Logano had a restart violation for crossing the yellow line before the start-finish line, which is a black and white rule. Clint Boyer, I don't know what Clint Boyer was thinking. He was saying, oh yeah, this shouldn't be a penalty. I'm like, no, Clint, this is a black and white call. If you're going to say it's not, that throws in a gray area, which Kevin Harvick was saying. And I have said numerous times, no, gray areas, bad thing. Boo, we don't like them. So anyway, Byron went on to win Stage 1. Stage 2, Byron led. The 2 car of Austin Cindric passed him on the option tire. McDowell had a flat tire, which brought out the caution. I think that was from a faulty brake rotor. I could be wrong, though. Christopher Bell took the lead after yellow flag pit stops. And on that restart, you had a huge crash with Custer, Herbst, Haley, Hocevar, Keselowski, Briscoe, SVG, Austin Dillon, Gilliland, Allmendinger, Gregson. Were all involved with the majority of those guys not being able to finish. Then you had Christopher Bell continued to lead. Logano passed him on an option tire. Then Bell repassed Logano with 8 laps to go on the stage. That was not quite 70 laps ran on the option tire. I don't know what the official number was. They didn't say on the broadcast. Christopher Bell went on to win Stage 2. And the reason why the reason why I put that sequence in there, Ethan, is I put that sequence in there because it's battle for a lead. But I put that sequence in because it shows how the option tire was able to get guys to the front, and then it faded, which is exactly what NASCAR wanted.
Yeah. I think the tires did exactly what NASCAR wanted them to do. I think they were maybe a little bit faster than expected. Like Josh Berry went from 33rd to.
I think that was Priest.
It was Priest. You're right. Priest went from 33rd to 3rd in about 2.5 seconds. So I think maybe the tires were a little faster than expected, but yeah, overall I think they were pretty much, did what they were designed to do for the most part.
Yeah, I think they'll be able to reuse them in those. I think NASCAR Goodyear hit the nail right on the head. I would give it a 9.5 out of 10. Like you said, I'm taking the half point away there. Just maybe a little too fast, but I'm not complaining about it. I think it worked great. I would love to see it in the fall race. And then moving on into stage 3, Logano regains lead in the pits. Leg had another spin and collected Suarez. Everyone pits here, and then Bell takes the lead. Priest takes the lead on an option tire. 23 has a tire go down and causes a debris caution. And Bell regains lead in the pits. Then 12 loses Blaney loses an engine. Ty Gibbs has a brake issue. And then with this setup, not an overtime finish, but a 2-lap shootout.
Yeah.
And then between Hamlin and Bell,
Kyle Larson was there too.
Kyle Larson was lurking, but he wasn't a true contender, I feel.
No, but he did contribute to the finish.
Yeah. They're side by side for the entire 2 laps, Ethan. And then coming to the line, Hamlin looked like he was going to get the run, but Bell was there. He did have the lead, and Bell was helped by a shot from Larson at the line.
Yeah, Bell basically got the perfect call from his spotter. He came down on the track at the perfect time to get a push from Kyle Larson, which sent him over the line first.
That was the second closest finish all time at Phoenix Raceway, I do believe. And now I've seen the top 2 closest finishes at Phoenix Raceway for the Cup Series.
Yeah.
So that's a cool stat for me. I would give the race a 7 out of 10, 7.5 out of 10.
It was a pretty solid race.
It was a solid race. It had some dry parts.
It did, definitely. But I thought it was intriguing. I thought
good.
the tires made it a more intriguing race. A lot of people in NASCAR didn't seem to love that they brought 2 tires. I personally enjoyed it. I thought, I don't think that multiple tires are gimmicky. I don't think anything like that. I think it just is an added layer of strategy the teams have to deal with. And we saw at the end, there was a moment of it. I don't think it particularly played a huge role in the finish because the top 15 guys stayed out, but guys lower in the pack during that last caution or second to last caution, whatever it was, were, are you gonna go for new tires of the harder compound, or are you gonna put on scuffed of the softer compound? And even throughout the race, Joey Logano had to go on an alternate strategy because he was hit with the drive-through penalty, and if he didn't have those softer tires, he probably wouldn't have been able to shot back up to the front and him being at the front contributed to some of the excitement of the race, a lot of the excitement of the race. So I do enjoy bringing multiple tires. I don't know about you, Andrew, but I hope they bring multiple compounds to more tracks.
I'd like to, it's a good thing, but I'd like to avoid it when possible, because I'd like there to be one. I'd like the racing to be good enough so that there's only 1 tire needed, and for most tracks, I would say, yeah, that's a good. I think 1 tire needs fine, but I wouldn't mind them experimenting to say, okay, we know what we've got's a decent tire. Let's go something maybe further on the edge. Try something, see if it works as to become the primary tire in the future, which is what exactly NASCAR did. And quite frankly, they did a good job with it, I think.
Someone that did not do a good job was Fox, letting us know who was on what tire.
Yeah, Fox last week I gave them the ARCA breaks moment of the week for just bad graphics.
Horrible decision on Andrew's part, by the way.
Or from the cartoons. But today we're giving them the Chicken Award because of their tired graphics. Because they had two different graphics that they used. One said OPT when they were on the option tire, and then the one looked like a highlighter effect, highlighting the whole driver red, which looked really weird. It's kind of...
That one I didn't mind, but then they went and did something else. Because at least that one, like, it doesn't look the best, sure, but you know who's on what tire. Then they went to a system where it just said opt for the option
OPT.
tire. And then near the end, I think that even disappeared. It disappeared on the TVs in the media center, at least.
Yeah, that was Fox not doing things well. And also on when they did the races off pit road, Ethan.
Yeah.
I don't know if you noticed it, but they say, oh, this driver's +2 on his stop. They had that all wrong too. So Fox, for your graphic failures of the week, you get the Chicken Award. There you go. That's that. Moving into the news here.
And now for the news.
We some more news in the lawsuit. NASCAR files counterclaim against the two teams in Curtis Polk, who is part of the 2311 team, claiming conspiracy and violating the Sherman Act. I'm not quite sure what those are, but in basic human terms is that, hey, you're trying to ruin the sport by doing this. You're trying to ruin us, and that's not good. So yeah, right. We'll see how this goes. This isn't fun. Here's the thing, Ethan.
Yeah.
I go back to 2016. The Charter Alliance was that was when it was incepted. That leading up to that might be the single worst move that NASCAR has made, because forced a lot of it has done some good in guaranteeing 36 cars to start the race, each race, and forcing those cars to be there. Just saying, oh, you can't be skipping races. However, outside of and the fact that you can sell them to make money, outside of that, it's killed off open cars. It's killed off a lot of these other teams that were trying to qualify. It shrunk the field, as well. And now, with this whole suit following, saying, oh, it's a monopoly. You wouldn't have that if the charter system was introduced. And I go back, is that the group that created the charter system was the Race Team Alliance, who was headed by Rob Kaufman, who worked at the time Michael Waltrip Racing. When the charter system was introduced, Michael Waltrip Racing and already announced their intentions to shut down. And the way that they wrote the charters, Michael Waltrip Racing had 2 charters. So that was free money for Kaufman. So I go back, I look at it, that was just bad business. And the ripple effects now and down the road, I worry that the same thing might happen for IndyCar.
I hope not. But yeah, it's very possible, and honestly, even likely.
Yeah. Anyway, moving on. We have some points changes. Austin Cindric docked 50 points for COTA incident with Ty Dillon. Like I said last week, NASCAR's probably going to say, oh, it was a road course, it was slower.
NASCAR needs to stop doing things like that. They need to stop being like, oh, because this happened, or oh, because this was the outcome and not that this was the outcome. They need to stop policing by the outcome and by, oh, they did this on this track. Just make the rule uniform and stop policing by outcome, start policing by intent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the intent was the same. I don't know who it was, but someone said basically the same thing. Is whoever they elaborated and said, whoever the next guy is to do it on the road course probably can be slapped with a harder penalty. So NASCAR, let's get rid of gray areas. He should not have. 50 points is a lot, but still racing the next day. I do believe. The big thing is Cindric will be able to keep his playoff points. 50 points deduction. Likely. That's about. Not many drivers are going to get more than 50 points in a race.
Yeah.
Because you'd have to do well in both the stages.
Mm-hmm.
If you win 40 points and then the stages are self-explanatory, 10 points for first and then going down to 10th. But for second place, it's 35. So that means you have to finish top, my math here, is, I believe, top 7 at worst, top 7. And then you have to place in both stages in all likelihood for that to be in the green. And I don't think Cindric earned 50 points because I don't think he was top 7. I don't think he did well in either stage. So it was a net loss in points, but the playoff points, it's still kind of a gray area. I think
enough with the gray areas, man.
I think this might be the way NASCAR goes in the future. If it's super speedways, your 1.5 mile-ers, I think this might be the way of the future because NASCAR doesn't want to take playoff points away. And that's one of the things. I don't know if we said it here, but I did see it discussed. Say whoever is going to be the first guy to right rear hook a guy won't be suspended because NASCAR is too afraid to take their playoff points away.
And this goes back to the thing where kind of that's dumb to me. Like if you're scared about taking playoff points away, really? No, do that. And then the next person isn't going to do it because the driver doesn't want his playoff points taken away. And you've basically put yourself in a system with the way that these playoffs are that, yeah, NASCAR, you kind of can't take people's playoff points away. You've created such a horrible system for yourself, and now you're caught in it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can't take away someone's playoff points because that's too much. But also, you kind of have to because if you're not doing that, you're just giving them a slap on the wrist and they're going to do it again. Like, this just goes back to how horrible the playoff system is right now.
Mm-hmm.
Which, little side tangent, Andrew, if you're okay with that. Christopher Bell won 3 races in a row. Could have won Daytona if Cole Custer, whoever it was, didn't slam him into the wall. He has the best average finish in NASCAR this year at 8.5 average finishing position. And he's not the leader in points. William Byron is. And William Byron has had himself a rather nice start to the season. There's no denying that. But how is a guy that has won 3 out of the 4 races not the points leader. Andrew, I just don't understand it. The stage points and all this, like, it is such a horrible system. Like, Byron has who's had the better season here? William Byron, who has a first, a 27th, a second, and a 6th, or Christopher Bell, who has a 31st, a first, a first, and a first. Who's had the better season? I don't think it takes a genius to figure out who's had the better season, who deserves more points. I understand, yeah, stage points, sure, whatever, but like, stage points shouldn't be that powerful that they are making Byron ahead of Bell. Like, I don't even like stage racing in the first place, honestly. Like, I would get rid of it if I could, but that's not what I'm here to preach about. I'm just saying, like, the way the points are given out is insane. Because NASCAR wants to talk about how winning is the only thing that matters. That's why they have a one race championship in Phoenix, because whoever wins that race is the champion. You need to win to be the champion. But the guy that's won 3 out of the 4 first races isn't in the lead in points, because NASCAR just loves making 0 cents.
Well, I don't hate stage racing. I understand where you're coming from. It is a gimmick. I will say that. But in the stages this year, Byron has got the most points out of anyone.
Right, but should that make him first in the standings? Don't think so.
And then Christopher Bell, he's had 26, which is good enough for. Give me some minute. Good enough for 6th. Actually, good enough for 7th.
Yeah, but he's won 3 of the 4 races, so I don't really care where he's finishing in stage 1 and stage 2. I think that he should be in the lead of the standings. I think it's kind of crazy. I just go back to a system that makes sense, NASCAR. Like, it's not that hard. You used to do it. Well, you can do it again.
I'll ask you this, Ethan. What do you prefer? Is before stages, what NASCAR had replaced stages with is you had a 1-point bonus for anyone and everyone who led a lap, and another point bonus for whoever led the most laps. Would you rather have that?
I'd rather have a point bonus for whoever led the most laps. Yeah, that makes sense to me.
And 1 point for everyone who led a lap? Or would you rather have the stage racing the way it is? Or with the points, not necessarily the guaranteed caution, but what would you rather have of those two options?
I think I'd rather have the way it used to be.
All right, that's fair enough. I don't know if I'd agree with you, but that's a fair opinion.
I wouldn't like to have, a point for every single person that leads every single lap, but I also don't like the way that the stage points are given out. So if we keep stage racing, like, how many points do you get for winning a stage?
10.
10? Cut that in half. Make it 5.
Do it 5/4. I would not be opposed to
Cut
that.
it in half.
Well, I think you might have misunderstood me. So if William Byron leads 2 laps, he'd get 1 point, unless it was the most laps led out of everyone. So he'd get 2 points.
Okay.
So instead of Byron leading 2 laps, he gets 2 points, type of thing.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. So, okay.
Then I like that more. Yeah.
Moving on. Chase Briscoe gaining 100 points in a single day as he won the appeal, as the committee, the appeal committee said, okay, we think NASCAR, or when the part got to you, it was already modified, type of thing. So they ruled. And so they gained their 100 points back. Will not be having a suspension for the crew chief. So they'll be Chase Briscoe right back in the playoff hunt, not in debt to points anymore. I do believe they're right around. I know coming into the race I think they're right around the bubble, and now I think they're further down the standings. I want to say around 22nd or so. 20th. So only 88 is the number that they need to get to, and they're at 73. So they're 15 points in whatever amount of races left. 22 is a lot better than 115 and 22. You know what I'm saying? So that's a huge gain for Briscoe. Huge win for that team.
Yeah.
Moving on to our final piece of news is Carl Edwards is back from wherever he was for the last not quite 10 years.
Off doing backflips or something.
Off doing whatever. He's going to be added to the Prime Video talent lineup as a studio analyst. A lot of people are hoping that he'll come back as a race car driver, do a one-off race. Maybe this might lead to something. Get him back in the garage. Get him seeing faces again.
Might start getting that itch.
And we'll get to see him on the broadcast. I know we've seen him on a few races here and there. He seemed pretty good at it. We'll see how this goes. It's interesting to see. He'll be working alongside Corey LaJoy as the two studio analysts, and they'll have a studio host in there as well. I don't remember who it was. That's an interesting duo. I don't think they ever raced against each other ever. That just maybe in 2016, but I don't know if Corey was around back then. Gonna do some quick research here, but let's see. No, where's the? There you are. Great user of the internet, Andrew Hazlett, by the way. I do not think he did. Corey LaJoy I do believe made his first start in 2017, the year after Edwards retired. So those two guys had never raced against each other, and they're going to be studio analysts. That's kind of crazy to think about.
I guess, yeah.
I don't know if that's ever happened before, but I'm not going to research that because that would take too long. Anyway, moving over to IndyCar. Takuma Sato trying to chase his third Indy 500 win with RLL and a one-off entry, the 75. They're back again for another year. I think this is a great pairing. Sato can help this team at the Indy 500 to be not entirely slow because he is very good there. And this team has been entirely slow. So I think it's a good move for each team. Now we go into the Formula One news here, Ethan.
Yeah, Andrew, you put this first one on the list. I'm not too sure what's going on with this one. You wanna enlighten me?
Give me a minute to search that headline up because I thought you might have heard, but the Motorsport UK chair threatens FIA with legal action over governance. They're basically saying, okay, they didn't sign a confidentiality agreement. The UK didn't, and they're saying a move was in total breach of the FIA statute is that require all elected members to be given full access to meetings, and that there has been a distinct failure to deliver the three pillars that encouraged him to back Mohammed bin Salem during his campaign, which were hands-off leadership, the appointment of an empowered and capable CEO, and the full transparency of actions. Adding, quote, the situation has been progressively worsened with media and reports confirming that numerous senior members of the FIA and volunteer officials have either been fired and resigned under an opaque cloud. He goes on to say, furthermore, the scope of the audit and ethics committees has been severely limited and now acts autonomy from the authority of the president, while our UK representative, who challenged certain matters, was summarily removed along with the chair of the audit committee. Various technologies have also been deployed with the effect of limiting the proper function of the World Motorsport Council, primarily the use of e-voting, which removes the opportunity for much needed discussion and debate on key subjects. They did sign a confidentiality agreement to be part in 2021. The President Richard of the UK, Richard, says he regarded the latest confidentiality agreement as a gagging order, saying the key clauses I objected to were everything was now considered confidential without any qualification, preventing me from necessarily sharing what I considered to be relevant information. The FIA, at its own discretion, could decide if anyone breached the terms of the new confidentiality agreement with no process or frame of reference. There was an immediate fine of $50,000 for any breach of threat of undisclosed damages. He goes on to say he understands the need to keep certain topics confidential, but he claims that he would be barred from the WMSC meeting if he didn't sign the agreement. And Motorsport UK lawyers and his French legal counsel are challenging the FIA on this actions, but no response has been received. He writes, integrity is a core value of Motorsport UK, and that's central to who we are. Our board and executive team will always operate in an open and transparent manner, so our members trust and respect our voice. We are fully aligned with Sport England and UK Sports Code for Governance, which sets out gold standards of transparency, accountability, and sports governance. It is therefore beholden to us to demand the same values of our governing body, the FIA. These actions by the FIA are in breach of their own statutes. As a result, we have informed the FIA unless they address the issues we've raised, we will be engaging in further legal action. In a year when the president will either be re-elected or a new one appointed, it is more important than ever to remind the FIA of their responsibilities and continue to hold them on account of behalf of their sport and their members worldwide. And that's what I intend to do.
And
Ethan,
who wrote this article that you read for verbatim?
Chris Medland.
Okay. Shout out Chris Medland for putting
Racer.
that all together.
Of mostly David Richards quotes of who is the chairman of Motorsport UK.
Right. So, I mean, Mohammed Ben Sulayem just keeps on making friends, really. I don't know. I wonder how this will go. This will be something, I guess, that will follow along here. If I were to wager a guess, I doubt anything major happens. I think that, Suleiman's going to ride out his term, and then we're going to get a new FIA president. I don't think that anything crazy is going to happen. I mean, we've heard these rumors of, Susie Wolf's going to, challenge him for, control of the FIA, and now we're hearing this. I don't really think anything's crazy going to happen until his term is actually up, whenever that may be. I don't know off the top of my head, but
So at some point this year.
okay, so yeah,
though.
if it's this year, then I doubt anything's going to happen in the courts before he's replaced, and then everyone loses interest in the court case anyway. So yeah, he's definitely not making any friends. So I think the only possible shock here is that if he wins re-election. I don't know exactly who votes on who the president of the FIA is, but he seems to be making enemies, or at least people that don't like him, at every single turn. So I don't think that anything crazy is going to happen out of this. If he does win re-election, then, well, we'll circle back.
Obviously, I have never been a fan of MBS. I've said it before, and the people that were fans of him have seemed to clearly turn on him. I don't know if anyone likes what he's been doing within the FIA.
I'm not exactly sure who he has in his corner. It's I think it's going to be a rough couple months for him with people, calling him out and trying to challenge him and all that. So anyway, though, next piece of news, not really news, but Formula One testing happened a couple weeks ago. I expected you guys to talk about it on the show last week. And it's been a while, so I won't go crazy into detail here, but it's no surprise that McLaren looked the strongest, given where they ended last season, and the relative stability that they had compared to some other top teams. Basically, everyone on the grid is saying that they're the fastest, but people are also saying that this could be the tightest top four that we've had in this regulation era, which makes sense. Towards the end of every regulation era, the teams become fairly close together before the new regulations come into play, and I think that is something that we are going to see this year. To what extent, it's hard to say. We don't know until the racing gets underway, which, Formula One does return this upcoming weekend, and we won't know until then and in the coming race weekends, but it does appear that way. Ferrari seemed to have a good test. Mercedes had a really good test. I'm not sure if I buy that, though, just because of, the temperature in Bahrain was a lot colder than a lot of people were expecting. And Mercedes basically had the ideal conditions for its car in Bahrain, and so of course it drove really well. So that's why I'm not super high on Mercedes. Some people are saying Mercedes could be the second fastest team at the start of the season. I don't know about that. I think it was just a perfect fit at Bahrain. Ferrari looked good. Red Bull did appear to have some struggles, but probably still the fourth fastest team. And then teams like Aston Martin and Haas, and Sauber, of course, VCarb as well, Alpine even, Alpine not so much actually, but those previous teams that I mentioned all seemed to be kind of in the group that was struggling, especially Sauber, but they only really did long race runs, so we don't know exactly, but I think everyone is expecting them to be the slowest team. But this appears to be a bad year for VCarb. They didn't show up with a Red Bull 2.0, so this could be a bad year for them. Aston Martin, Adrian Newey didn't join the team until the day after testing or whatever, so he had no input on this car, and this could be a rough year for Austin because they're gonna be Newey's gonna be focusing on the 2026 car, getting a good base for that new regulation era. So this could just be a throwaway season for the team in green. Haas, even though they finished the season really strong, they didn't appear to be amazing. But I'm still kind of high on Haas. Alpine. Some people really were impressed with their test. I don't know. I thought it was okay. The team, Andrew, that I was the most impressed with was Williams. They seem to have great pace. They seem to have just great runs over and over again. And, it's testing. It's hard to say exactly because we don't know exactly what compound they're running. We don't know the fuel load. We don't know the setup. But they were just quick. They were doing well. We've heard James Vowles and the team talk about how they don't care about this year. They just care about 2026. But if they show up to Australia and they have a quick car and they have a quick car throughout the season, I can see them, I don't think they're just going to not bring any upgrades throughout the season. As the season nears its end, I think Williams, as well as all the other teams, to be fair, will start bringing less and less upgrades as they focus their resources, at least the teams in the back half of the grid, as they focus their resources towards the next regulations. But if Williams starts off strong, like that could power them to a good, respectable finish in the constructor standings. But like I said, we don't really know. We're not going to know until we talk about, or until we're sitting here next Tuesday talking about what happened in Australia. And even then, that's only the first race. We won't know exactly. But before we get into that Australia preview and some previews for NASCAR, there is some hard news for Formula One. Oscar Piastri signed a multi-year extension with McLaren. Always annoying how we don't know exactly how many years this is, but makes sense that McLaren wants to lock him up. He's an extremely young, talented driver who had a great season last year. There was that kind of dip in performance in the middle part of the season, but he overall had a really great year. It's going to be interesting, though, going forward. Is he going to be able to get closer and closer to Lando? Is he going to start challenging Lando more and more? And if so, both of these drivers now locked up, is that going to create drama for the team? Is that going to create drama between the two drivers? Only time will tell with that. Of course, Oscar, if you were to ask him, he would say that he's going to beat Lando, and it's not going to be, there's not going to be any drama because he's just going to be that much faster. But that's not really how it works, of course. And, McLaren, they're, of course, not going to let a young driver talented like him walk. And Piastri, he trusts McLaren. He thinks that he can beat Lando in McLaren, so he's not going to leave either. Everyone's feeling great right now, but, 2-3 years down the line, I wonder if there's going to be some fireworks as a result of this. But I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. Like, this is a great move for McLaren. They're locking down one of the best, if not the best, driver lineup for the next 2, 3, 4 years. Who knows how long. They're putting themselves in great positions to win constructors championships and all that. So that is great for the team. Mm-hmm. And then Kushmian.
Yeah, I do want to say this. I do think I'm gonna ask you a question, Ethan, because you know about this more than I do. Is I put on my story on Instagram when I repost this, I put Hamilton Rosberg 2.0. You think that they can have a rivalry not as heated as that, but still heated enough to be considered a 2.0, because you aren't going to get to Hamilton-Rosberg rivalry in all likelihood.
Yeah, well, that's what I was kind of saying, right? Like, there is definitely the potential for this with both of these drivers locked up for a while.
But do you think it will happen? That's
if I were
kind of
to
my
make
question.
a guess, to a much, much lesser extent, I do expect something along those lines to happen, just at a much lesser extent. I'm not as high on. I still think Oscar Piastri is, one of the best drivers in the sport. Like, I was just giving him his flowers, but I'm not as high on him as I think some other people are. So I don't know if it's gonna really be like him and Lando are the very top, same level, fighting for championships. And even going into next year, it's so uncertain to say that McLaren is going to be the top team fighting for, drivers' championships with its two drivers. So I think that there could be moments for sure, but I don't think it'll be a week in, week out heated rivalry like Rosberg and Hamilton.
All right, that's fair. And then going to the next bit of news.
Yeah, Kushmiani, who is, for those that don't know, 24-year-old Indian Formula 2 driver. He's going to be competing in the championship this year with Dams, previously raced for Invicta and Campos. He is the newest member of the Alpine Reserve Group. They're just collecting
another one.
They're just collecting test and reserve drivers like their Pokemon, Andrew. He's joining the likes of Paul Aaron, Rio Hirakawa, and of course Franco Colapinto. New member of the Alpine Academy, test and reserve driver. Welcome to the squad. But whole lot of names in that group. It's not like he has a clear shot to Formula One with this team, but he will get Formula One seat time. He's probably bringing in some funding to Alpine. I can't imagine any other reason that they would take on another driver, but yeah, probably bringing in some funding, some sponsorships. If not, I'm not sure. It's not like he's some super high, top of the line prospect. Like, he is a very solid driver, don't get me wrong, but he's not exactly the type of driver that you would look at and say, yeah, this guy is a future Formula One driver. This guy is a guy that we have to have in our driver's academy. He's just a solid junior Formula driver who's probably eventually going to go off to endurance racing or whatever and have a solid but not spectacular career. That's probably the career path that Kushmayani is on, but he's buying himself some more time in the Formula One realm with this move for him. So good for him. That's really all I have to say about that.
And now for next week's race previews.
All right, into the previews now, as I'm trying to find the document real quick. NASCAR going to Las Vegas, 5th race of the year, bringing all 3 series this week. There are no open cars, no driver changes. That feels weird to say, but here's my 5 drivers to watch out for. Got Brad Keselowski, 3-time winner there. They need to get going. They need to show some speed.
RFK.
RFK as a whole. They're not doing too well this year. I do believe. I do believe Chris Buescher. He's been. This is not my original stuff here. He's been like a factory for them, putting out a bunch of top 10s, top 5s. It seems like for this year. 3 top 10s on the year for Buescher, currently 10th in points. But if you go, it's going to take a while for you to get to the other RFK drivers, where you'd find Ryan Preece in 24th and Brad Keselowski all the way down in 33rd. Not very good to start the year. So, moving on from them, also going to have is Joey Logano, always good there. Four wins there, including the most recent race. Kyle Larson, always great at the 1.5 miles. Can't rule him out. He's got 3 wins at Vegas, all of them since he joined Hendrick in 2021. That's 3 wins in 4 years on a track that you raced twice. That's 3 of 8.
Yeah, it's pretty good numbers.
I'm going to go with William Byron. He's won there before, I believe, won last spring, if memory serves me right. And yeah, he's established himself as one of those guys that's always good everywhere. I'm also going with as my 5th driver. This might surprise you, Ethan. Alex Bowman. He's the guy that's due for a breakout performance. Always runs well. Fun fact: the last 2 times a driver who's won 3 times in a row, Alex Bowman won the next week.
I love a good stat like that.
I do believe that's right. I could be wrong with that.
Brings me back to my William Byron wins after Denny Hamlin wins statistic that you were hating on, and then it turned out to be true again.
What was the year Larson won 3 in a row? That was
21.
I'm looking at 22. Math is fun.
That's not even math. That's just knowing years.
Alex Bowman.
Come on, Andrew.
Yeah, Alex Bowman did win twice. The 2 honorable mentions of guys that won there is Hamlin and Kyle Busch, but expect Christopher Bell to be fast there as well. Xfinity.
Yeah, I was about to say, can't count out Christopher Bell.
He's never won there before, so.
No, but he's got second in the last 2 fall races, which, to be fair, tracks are different in different seasons, but the run he's on right now, hard to count him out of anything, I feel like.
going into the Xfinity Series now with the preview part. Your drivers changing. 07 Patrick Emerling. 19 will be Eric Almirola, trying to go back-to-back wins before he goes off and does whatever. 32 will be Austin Green, the third Jordan Anderson car. Joey Gase cars this week. Got TBA for 35 last I checked.
My favorite driver.
I'll see if they updated that or not. Let's see here if I can work this NASCAR website, because they decided, we need to re-ramp it, and now I can't find anything anymore. Xfinity Series. No. Do you have an entry list when I hit the button? No, you don't. Great job, NASCAR. I can't see if they updated the entry list or not. Thank you, NASCAR.com. Alongside TBA will be Joey Gason's 35, or 53 rather. 45 is Mason Massey. 70 is Leland Honeyman for Cope Family Racing. 74 for Mike Harmon, TBA. Truck Series, you have William Sawalich in the 1 doing double duty this week. Nathan Bird will be in the 02 for Youngs. Rayum's second and third truck will be Stephen Malazzi and Josh Rayum. Spire's third and fourth trucks will be Justin Haley and Corey Day. Thor Sports' fifth truck, Luke Fenhouse, 66, and then the 90 of Justin Carroll is showing up this week for his own team. Ethan, what do you have for Australia?
Not much really. I mean, it's the first race of the season. There's no driver changes to go over. That probably won't happen until a few races into the year. So, hey, just how about instead we talk about the season as a whole, preview
Does this sound familiar?
The 2025.
Does this sound?
What are you doing?
I tried to do something, but it didn't work. So disregard.
Okay. Yeah. Let's get into my predictions. Andrew, you can chime in with your predictions as well.
I did make my.
You did?
Predictions.
Okay. This isn't actually the first time that my predictions have gone out over the airwaves. I would like to shout out Rome Katie and the Starting Grid podcast. I sent him my predictions a few days ago, and he went over them on his show. But I was not there. I couldn't defend myself. So here I am on our show defending myself and my predictions.
And I will... Are we doing this last to first with drivers and...
Let's go last to first, drivers, and then that kind of basically gives you a good idea of the constructor standing, so we'll go over that quickly at the end.
Okay. We also have pick points. Do you want to do that first, or?
Sure, we'll do pick points.
All right.
And now for next week's race picks.
First.
Pick points was painful for me last weekend.
Was great for me personally. Could have been even better, but
not good for me. I took 0 points. Ethan, you took 6, and
yeah, I had Christopher Bell winning. He of course did win, and I had Alex Bowman winning. He came second, which was still ahead of Andrew's pick of Justin Allgaier. He almost won if it wasn't for Eric Almirola's little shove, which I thought was fine. But if it was in other series, no. But in NASCAR, the way NASCAR is, I think that move is fine. But if it wasn't for that move, I could have got 10 points. But still, I'm leaning 30 to 17 to 16, so I'm feeling pretty solid. Huge points haul this week, though. F3 Sprint, F3 Main, F2 Sprint, F2 Main, or featured, should say. But Formula 1, NASCAR, all 3 series. So let's get into it. Andrew, starting off, Formula 3, the sprint race. You are taking...
Lawrence Van Hopen. Or I don't know. I don't know how to pronounce Dutch names.
I'm pretty sure that's how you pronounce it.
But I'm hoping he gets a top good finish. He ran well there last year. Got a second in the sprint. Ethan, if you want to go with your pick here.
Yeah, I'm taking Nikola Tozlov. This is his second year in Formula 3 after winning Formula for Spain in 2022. And it wasn't the this is his third year now. So it hasn't been the greatest of starts to his Formula 3 career, but he does have a pretty solid track record in sprint races. And I think that with some experience now in the championship, he will have himself a pretty solid year. So I have him taking the sprint win in Australia.
The guest going with the same driver for the sprint and the main race, Noel Leon, who's driving a Prema car, I believe.
Who is our guest?
He is one of my friends. His name is Zach.
Okay. Does he know? Is he a big F3 watcher? Is he gonna blow us out of the water?
I don't believe so. He is a Formula One based motorsports fan, but he knows his way around NASCAR as well.
Okay. I'm gonna check in on Noel Leon here. He won. What has he won?
Has he won?
He won Euroformula Open in 2023, and he was 10th in F3 last year. I don't hate it.
I'm going with Tim Tramnitz. He ran well at the feature race, I believe, at Australia. Got a podium, so I'm thinking track knowledge, he might do well.
Sure. I'm taking Rafael Camara. I've been hyping this guy up, 19-year-old from Brazil. I got to put my money where my mouth is, right, Andrew? Take him for the first race here in F3. I mean, he's finished in the top 3 positions in pretty much every series that he has raced in. He's coming off a win in regional the Formula Regional European Championship with Prema, moving over to Trident for F3, but Trident can be a good team. We've seen them be a good team. So, hey, it's opening weekend of Formula 3. None of us really know exactly what we're doing here with these picks, but yeah, I'm putting my money where my mouth is. I'm picking him.
Moving up to Formula 2 sprint race, I'm going with Jack Crawford. Ran well at the sprint last year.
Yeah, I'm taking Kushmayani. Was talking about him earlier. Going to talk about him a little bit more here. He's another driver who has, done solid in sprint races. And this is his third year of Formula 2. Again, bringing in some experience. I think that is important. I think that's big early on in the season before some of these younger drivers really get adjusted to the category. You know what I mean? So I don't think he's going to have some crazy great season, but early on here in F2, he has a lot of experience. He did well in Melbourne in the past, getting third places in the previous 2 sprint races there for Formula 2. So, yeah, I think he's going to do a little bit better, pick up a win.
Guest going with Pepe Marti for the sprint race, who was one I went for the feature race, ran well there last year as well.
Yeah.
Kind of sticking with my trend here.
I'm taking Victor Martins. This needs to be, his time to kind of really break out. I mean, after a pretty solid rookie season in F2 where he finished 5th, he dropped down to 7th last year. He really needs to break out this year. All the guys that really did great at Melbourne last year are no longer in the category, so it's time for someone to step up early on in the season. Taking Victor.
Yeah, and the guest going with Oliver Goethe.
I don't know.
Goethe.
Well,
I don't know how to pronounce German names either. Adding to my repertoire.
Of not being able to pronounce names.
Yes. So yeah, that's how it goes. I don't
love that pick, by the way.
Why not? Tell me why Backstreet Boys are going to be on John Hunter Nemechek's car.
I did see that.
Vegas.
In 2 seasons in Formula 3, he finished 8th and 7th. And like I keep saying, we as a society have moved on past the need for junior formula results. But at the same time, you got to have something, right? Like, you got to have something. He won your Formula Open in 2022, so he does have that under his belt, but not a whole lot of recent success.
And in the computer here, Ethan, they don't have it. They don't have I want it that way.
That's a shame.
So anyway, moving on. Your podium for Australia, different point system to remind the folks, is that winner's still the same. You get 5 points for winning. Second points, if you get your second guy right, that's 3 points. And then third, 2 points as well if you get third right, and 1 point if your guy finishes on the podium regardless.
Yep.
Just kind of balance winning.
We're trying to balance everything out here.
Yeah. So with that being said, oh wow, I just realized something. I have a different podium compared to you on the guests, so I'm gonna go with my winner here of Oscar Piastri, gonna win it in his home country. And the scenes will be yellow and green because that's Australia's colors.
That would be scenes. I'm taking his teammate Lando Norris.
So's the guest too.
So is the guest. I think early theme here is that we are believers in McLaren this year.
I am not picking Lando Norris for second place. I'm picking a guy who has been done well recently, you might say.
Some might say.
He goes by the name of Max Verstappen.
Yeah. I'm taking Oscar to finish second. I don't want to get ahead of myself and like spoil my standings predictions, but yeah, I think McLaren's going to be pretty solid this year.
And then guess going with Charles Leclerc to finish second. Well, I think we'll finish third. I'm going with 3 different teams. I'm diversifying my portfolio,
Sure.
You might say. Not gonna hitch my wagon to one boat early. Hopefully it works for me.
Yeah,
that's kind of the strategy there.
I'm also taking Leclerc in third. I think that Ferrari will do well. I think Leclerc will do well. And then our guest is taking Oscar Piastri in third. Now, Andrew, you're probably wondering why I'm not taking Max Verstappen on my podium, and I'm wondering why you're not taking Lando Norris on your podium.
Well, as you heard me say, diversifying my portfolio. So you say, okay, you go 3 different teams, and you'll see because I put Oscar first. It'd be nice to see him win in his home country.
It would be
kind of a vibes pick, but you'll see what I might have in store for later, or might not.
Okay.
You never know.
Yeah, and you'll see why I might not have Max on the podium early on. Not to say that he's gonna have a horrible year by any means, in my opinion. But yeah, let's move on to NASCAR before we turn back to F1 and talk about the standings predictions. Truck Series, Andrew, you're taking Rajah Caruth.
He
Why is
won
that?
there last spring. Quite simple.
Yeah. Yep. I am taking Corey Heim, who is kind of just now the big dog of the series, right? Like, it's he's not going to go out there and win every single race, but I feel like on most tracks, it's a pretty safe bet to write him in to win. And Las Vegas is a track that he's done well at in the past. Hasn't got a win in the Craftsman Truck Series, but finished in the top 5 the last 2 times there. I'm looking at him in Xfinity in 2024 last year. He was 13th, and then 11th when they came back in the fall. So it's just a good track for him. Place he does well, just hasn't won yet. But like I said, this is the year that he's the big dog in the series. It's time for him to win there.
Yeah, guess going with Chandler Smith. That's a good pick. He's ran well for Colleague when he's there in Xfinity. Now going down to trucks, logic would say he'll do well there.
Yeah.
Xfinity, you and I are both going with the same driver. Sorry to spoil.
Yeah.
Austin Hill. He's done well there. This is not an Austin Hill Invitational, but it is.
It's an honorary Austin Hill Invitation.
Oh, it's an Austin Hill Invitational. The same way this the spring race at one point was the Joey Logano Invitational.
Yeah.
Guests going with Brandon Jones. I'm sorry, Zach. I don't mean to rip into you too much, but Brandon Jones is the most Mickey Mouse driver in the history of Mickey Mouse drivers, bro.
Wow.
And I don't like that series, but bro is never done much.
You don't like that? You don't like that series? You don't like
No,
Mickey Mouse Clubhouse?
I don't
beef
like
with it?
No, I don't hate the series. I don't like the terminology.
Well, that's a completely different sentence.
Like Brandon Jones in his career, he has done. This is his 10th full-time year in Xfinity, all of which in top-level equipment. He's made sporadic truck starts as well. It took him until 2019, his 4th year in Xfinity, to get a win. That was at Kansas. And then since then he's won 3 more times. These are in Joe Gibbs and Dale Jr. cars that are winning championships. He's out there running anywhere from 7th to 14th. Bro is not good. The only reason why he's still in the sport is Menards follows him for some unknown reason. Never won in Vegas. He infamously turned right, got loose, turned right into into the turn 3 wall where you're supposed to turn left. If we had this podcast in, I don't know, when he did that, he would have gotten the Chicken Award and the ARCA Breaks Moment of the Week for that. That is one of the top lack of talent moments in NASCAR. Not saying that I would do any better. Just putting it out there. But I know a lack of talent when I see one because I am one. Takes one to know. Anyway,
Sure.
Side tangent over. Cup Series pick. I kind of spoiled mine. Joey Logano. He's always been good there in the spring. Won there in the fall last year. Pennzoil car. It's going to win the Pennzoil 400.
All right. Well, Andrew, you already explained earlier why I'm taking my pick and why our guest is taking his pick. It's because Kyle Larson is really, really good at Las Vegas, and Kyle Larson is my pick. He's carrying some momentum into the race after a nice finish at Phoenix, and this is a track that can get him going. It's a track that, like you said, he's won at, 3 times, right? Like, and when he hasn't won there, he's like finished second. So yeah, I don't know what to say other than just it's just one of the tracks that he's a beast at.
Yeah, he is a beast, and the guest, I don't know if you mentioned that, Ethan, but the guest did pick
Yeah, Kyle Larson as well.
Larson as well. So now we can go into our F1 season preview here
Yeah, I'll start off.
with driver. What number?
Driver number 21, Andrew. And I have Jack Doohan. Not because I think that he's the worst driver in the world or because I think that the Alpine is absolutely horrific, but just because I think that fairly early on in the season, he's going to get dropped, and I don't think that he'll be able to score points before then, because this isn't even spoiling my standings predictions. It's just like I just talked about in when I was going over testing. There are 4 really good teams this year, Andrew. Like, those 4 teams are probably going to finish in the points every single race unless there's some sort of reliability issue. And in this current era of Formula 1, we're not having many reliability issues. So there isn't really many opportunities for a driver like Jack Doohan to pick up points, which means he's going to be in the non-point scoring positions. And if you don't score points, your order in the standings is based off of your highest position. And I think drivers ahead of him that are going to race the whole year are going to have better chances of picking up a random 12th or 11th than a guy like Jack Doohan, who could be racing 5 or 6 races here if rumors are to be believed. And that's why I have Jack Doohan 21st.
I also have 21 drivers, and that is Jack Doohan in that 21 spot to no fault of his own.
All right, so I'm glad that we are both being geniuses. In 20th, I'm going to say 20th and 19th here because it's the same team. It is Sauber, which also means that Sauber comes in 10th for me in the Constructors' Championship. I have 20th, Gabriel Bortoleto, and 19th, Nico Hülkenberg. I'm super high on Gabriel Bortoleto. If you listen to the show, you know that. You know I love Gabriel Bortoleto. I think that he could be the most talented rookie out of this rookie class. However, he is also in an extremely, extremely, extremely tough position, and he's against a driver like Nico Hülkenberg, who has the experience and the talent to get the most out of bad cars. Nico Hülkenberg knows how to do that. Gabriel Bortoleto, in his rookie season, I don't know how much he's going to be able to maximize that car. So that's why I have Nico Hülkenberg ahead of Gabriel Bortoleto. In the past, I've done things a little bit differently. Like I said a few years ago, I think in our first year of the show, that Magnussen was going to beat Hülkenberg because Magnussen has those high-end races in front of him, that talent. I'm not making that mistake again. Hülkenberg is Mr. Consistency, yes, but he's also a guy who can maximize a bad car. So that's why I think he finishes ahead of Gabriel Bortoleto. Andrew, who's your 20th and 19th?
I don't have any of those 2 drivers.
Really?
Franco Colapinto, I think Jack will go more than that 5-6 races, but I don't know if he'll see the full season, so I'm kind of just saying, okay, I'm kind of going safe here.
Okay.
19 for me is the rookie that I'm least high on, that we know, that we'd imagine that will be full-time. I think the Sauber car isn't going to be the greatest, but I do think there's a huge talent difference between Gabriel Bortoleto and my guy finishing 19th, Isaac Hadjar. I do think Bortoleto's going to get a few points, going to get like 4 to Hadjar's, maybe 1 or 0. You're shaking your head, Ethan.
I don't think that any of these guys at the back end. I don't think Sauber scores any points this year. I'm not gonna lie, and also I don't think that there's, I'm extremely high on Gabriel Bortoleto. Like I said, I think he's the best in this rookie class, but I don't think that Isaac Hadjar is crazy far off of him. Like, why do you think that he is? Because you look at it, he was gonna win the championship, and Red Bull's high on him. Like, they are, say what you will, but Red Bull is great evaluators of talent almost all the time. I don't think they're going to put him in a car if they think that he's some sort of scrub that's going to finish behind a Sauber, even if that V-carb is also going to be not great.
I feel like you might be hating the Sauber too much.
Maybe I am. I don't disagree with you crazy, though, because I do have Isaac Hadjar finishing 18th. That V-carb is going to be a rough car this year. I am almost sure of it. and as a rookie, it will be a tough task for Isaac Hadjar. So, standings-wise, I don't have a huge disagreement with you. It's just more so the details that I disagree on.
I'm changing my predictions because I had an inconsistency from my driver to team, but that's further up the road. My 18 is did you say you're 18?
I did, Isaac Hadjar.
Hadjar. My 18 is Bortolotto, so not too far up the road here.
Yeah. In 17th, I already talked about how I think this car is going to be a struggle this year. I have Lance Stroll.
Wow.
I think Lance Stroll is near the end of his Formula One career. I don't think that, Father Stroll is going to be able to kind of justify it much longer. And, we're just seeing, Lance Stroll, the back end of last season. The car was really rough, but those results were also really rough to see. And I think the car is going to be a lot worse this year. I don't think that Lance Stroll is going to be able to get what he's going to need out of it. And so that's why I have him all the way down in 17th.
I'm going to go with another rookie. I do think this car is going to be a solid car, but I'm going to go with Ollie Behrman.
Wow.
The whole from 6 on down for me, I can see there's a top 6, and then there's a gradient of everyone else. But you can plug some of these guys like Ollie Behrman and say, oh, he could finish 13th, and I say, oh, I wouldn't be surprised. You're making a funny face,
wow,
Ethan, but
because we'll see where I have Oliver Behrman.
13th, maybe. But
potentially.
But the point of the matter is that there's the back end of the grid, I think, is so close. It's very hard to predict.
I think that overall this grid is extremely close. So that's fair. However, I think the Haas is going to be better than some of these cars back here, so I'm not going to be able to agree with that. But I understand your logic. I just don't agree. In 16th, the other V-Carb driver, Yuki Tsunoda, which locks up 9th for that team. Just another case of I think that this is going to be a really tough car to drive. I don't think that this is going to be a step back from Yuki Tsunoda. I don't think that him missing out on the Red Bull seat is going to mentally affect him in some sort of way that zaps his talent. I just think that this is going to be a really tough car to drive, and there's definitely a shot here that I can see him finishing higher, but as I'm talking about it, I'm not super confident about it, but I just think it's the car, and I think that this is where he is in 16th.
That's completely fair, Ethan. 16th for me in locking up 10th in the constructors will be Nico Hülkenberg and Sauber. I do think Nico's a talented driver. I don't think the Sauber's that far off of what you all are, what some people are thinking, but what do I know?
What do any of us know? In 15th, I have the second half of that Alpine second seat, Franco Colapinto. I think that Franco has already answered any questions that he's needed to about his pace. I think we all know that Franco Colapinto is a very fast driver. But questions that he hasn't answered is concerns over his crashability. Franco is, in his brief stint when he wasn't driving extremely fast, he was crashing. And that doesn't give me a ton of faith. I look around at some of these other drivers in this range. Yuki Tsunoda, he's solved his crashing issues. Guys ahead of him, I'm not worried about crashing. So even with that Alpine car maybe being slightly better than, technically deserving of Franco Colapinto being 15th, I have some questions about him finishing races that I don't have with some of these other guys. And so that's why I have to put him 15th. I don't know. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm going to go Yuki Tsunoda. V-Carb, not going to be good this year. V-Carb, they're going to be down in 9th in the Constructors.
Okay. So we agree on those two places for the constructor standings. I'm going to say my 14th and 13th at the same time. And it is going to be Esteban Ocon finishing 14th for Haas and Oliver Behrman finishing 13th for Haas. I am high on Ollie Behrman. I think that, both of these drivers are new to this team. Ocon has the experience, but I don't think that I think that Behrman has more talent. I think that he's going to be able to show it. I think that really the only thing that Behrman is going to have to worry about is Esteban Ocon as a teammate, because we know what type of teammate he can be, but I think Behrman gets over that and finishes ahead of his teammate, rookie, ahead of the veteran here at Haas. And I'll just say it since I'm talking about it here. I have Haas finishing 6th in the standings, because obviously I have some drivers from some other teams below, but I also have those teammates ahead. So I have Haas finishing 6th thanks to some, what would you call it? Well, both the drivers
Contributing.
are here contributing. Yes, thank you, Andrew.
For my 14, I have the one, the only, the known.
I knew you were going to say the known. You love saying that.
The Canadian, Lance Stroll.
Lance Strollovich.
He's going to be strolling a lot because he's going to crash his car. Got to walk back to the safety car. So yeah, that's why I have him 14th. Not the best. On his day, he is great.
Yeah.
Which can't be denied. I will say that.
Sure.
But
his day hasn't come around often in recent times.
Yeah. His day is not always. It's more often his day, not his day, than his day. So moving up to 13th, I have. This is gonna surprise you, Ethan.
Sure.
I may a little bit, I think, but not totally catch you off guard. Is a guy who I've never been high on, and I just wrote his name 13th. Alex Albon.
Yeah, I don't hate it. I do disagree, but I don't hate it. I'll give you a chance to say why you put him there.
Because I had 12 drivers better than
Okay,
him,
fair enough.
including his teammate.
I'll get to Albon when I get to him, which won't be too long. But I do have a driver before that.
Who you got in the 12th position?
I have Fernando Alonso.
You really aren't on the Aston
I
train.
am off the Aston Martin train about as much as anyone can be. I don't think that they're going to be focusing on this year at all. They brought in Adrian Newey, and they brought him in to focus on 2026. I think all the resources are going to go to 2026 because that is a regulation that this team can't afford to mess up. So I think that more than even some of these other teams are going to be focused on that regulation, even more so, especially compared to this year. And that locks up 8th in the constructor standings for that team. Yeah, so I think that I have a big gap between Alonso and Stroll, but not top 10 or anything for Alonso. Last year was the first year that Fernando Alonso kind of looked human. it wasn't a great year for him. He made some mistakes. And as he ages, I'm not sure, he's not getting any younger, right? So as he ages, I think we might see that a little bit more often. Like, I think he's still an amazing driver. He's still Fernando Alonso, but in a rough car, we know how Alonso acts when he's in those cars. In a rough car, I don't think that he's gonna be great.
You're off that Aston Martin train. I'm going from one rookie to another rookie. And if you use I don't know if it's deductive or inductive reasoning.
Okay.
You can figure out who this is. Kimi Antonelli.
Wow.
Here's the thing, Ethan. I was discussing with Morgan about how rookies take their time to get accumulated with NASCAR. They don't bust out onto the scene early. The only driver in current day NASCAR that really busted out onto the scene early in his rookie year was Denny Hamlin. I look at that and I do see the same thing in Formula One. There's no rookies that just bust out of the gate early. Kid's still young. Kid didn't do much in F2 last year. He's going to have a huge learning year. And that's not going to be the kid's talented. It's not from lack of talent. But the results aren't just going to come right away. And I do think he'll have a huge growth year next year. If you were to ask me the 2026 standings, I'd put Kimi back out. Maybe I'd put him around 7th or 6th or so. But I just think he's going to have a painful growing year. And you saw my rookie rankings: 12th, 17th, 18th, 19th, and 20th. And I don't count Liam as a rookie because he's done plenty of races, I think. But you'll see where Liam is.
Okay.
So it's gonna take time for these guys on a deep grid.
I'll say my thoughts on Kimi when I get to him. For now, 11th, I have Alexander Albon. Super high on this Williams team this year. I think that Albon and Sainz are both going to have great years. But obviously, I'm not as high on Albon as I am on Sainz. Haven't said Sainz's name yet. Saying Albon's name right now. Albon is good. I think you're looking into his Red Bull stint where he was destroyed by Max a little too much, Andrew. But fair enough. I see why people aren't high on him. I think that this is going to be a year where he proves that he is a good driver. Even if Carlos beats him, if Alex is somewhat close to him, that'll prove that he's a solid driver, worthy to be in the sport. Why are you taking a picture of me?
Mr. Alex sent me a Snapchat.
Weirdo. But anyway, yes, Albon in 11th for me. Really high on this Williams team. High on
Not
Albon.
Alex Albon, by the way. Different Alex.
Yeah. You're not. Alex Albon didn't snap you. I understood that. I think the listeners also understood that.
Is that all you have to say about it?
That's all I have to say about that, as Forrest Gump would say.
My 11th spot is a guy you mentioned already. I think a lot of people have forgot just how good this driver is. He's won before. And I think he's going to beat his teammate.
Pastor Maldonado has won before.
He dominated a race before. Did Pastor Maldonado dominate his race?
I don't know. I wasn't watching Formula One at that time.
But I do know this guy did dominate his race that he won. Granted, there was some tomfoolery going on in the back, but that's not important. I do believe he led the majority of the laps this race. Could be wrong about that, but the guy still is a very good driver. I think he'll. I don't know if easy is the right word here, but he'll beat his teammate by some margin. And the world isn't gonna be ready for an Esteban Ocon solid year. I think he's gonna finish 11th.
Okay. I mean, I think everyone has already seen an Esteban Ocon solid year, but I also think that there's a lot of drivers more talented than him in the sport. Just my opinion. Finishing 10th and securing 7th place for Alpine, just given where I have the other drivers in that second car this year. Pierre Gasly. I think we all know how good Gasly can be when given the opportunity to shine, when given the opportunity to lead a team. He has done some wonders in the past. I think that this Alpine car maybe isn't as good as some other people think, but I think he can outdrive its expectations and finish in 10th. I think that this year is going to be difficult for anyone to score points just because of the way that the top 4 teams are. And here's where I have some, and I'll talk more about this when I talk about Kimi. This is where I have some disagreements with you. I think the back half of the grid is going to stop developing this year's car fairly early on, maybe midpoint of the season or whatever. But there is going to be a gap that grows towards the back end of the grid, who are going to turn all their focus to 2026, and the front half of the grid, who will be thinking, oh, wait, this is an opportunity for us to do something great, and we don't know in these new regulations if we'll be able to do that again. Mm-hmm. So I think there will be a gap that forms, and I think that Alpine, with Pierre Gasly, is going to find themselves in a bit of an awkward situation here.
Right.
And I think that, they will be in that second half of the grid that focuses on next year. But early on in the season, I think that there's instability in that second car. Gasly will be able to put in results that will be able to secure him 10th. And even, especially early on in the season, because, I haven't said Kimi's name yet. I'm high on him. I haven't said Liam's name yet. I'm high on him for this year. But in the early part of the year, those drivers could struggle, right?
Oh, definitely.
Definitely.
I talked about the learning curve.
That's what I'm saying. So I agree with you on that. I just think that there's going to be a gap that forms towards the mid to end of the season that negates that. But in the early part of the season, yes, I could see Pierre Gasly finishing 6th, finishing 7th in races that could secure him the P10 this year.
For me, in the 10th slot is going to be another one of those rookies. Even though I don't think he's a rookie. Some people say he is. I don't know. Liam Lawson. I think there's just possibly he gets ran out of town by the end of the year at Red Bull if he gets destroyed by Max.
I don't think that Red Bull will run him out of town just so that they can give him a shot with the 2026 car. But yeah, I think that this is honestly a lot more fair than where you have Kimi, just because we've seen drivers over and over and over again in that second Red Bull car not be able to handle it the way that Max has. And this is even a Red Bull car that Max is having some issues with. So yeah, what does that say for Liam? I'm not sure exactly, but again, I think that the gap that's going to form in the teams is going to create a standings where Liam's going to be a lot higher than where you have him. In 9th, securing 5th for Williams, I have Carlos Sainz. I think that this is going to be a great season for Williams. Carlos early on could, Williams right now looks like it's the fastest car in that midfield, and Carlos early on could, get some nice results. And then later in the season, when you have a track like Monza, where the Williams is really good, maybe there's some chaos, maybe he gets a really nice result there. Like, there are opportunities this season for Carlos to put on some great drives and secure 9th place in the standings.
Ditto. Carlos Sainz 9th place for me.
Yeah. All right. I'm glad that you have him in 9th. It's just hard for me to wrap my head around the fact that you have him finishing in front of a Red Bull and a Mercedes when he's driving a Williams. That's all. In 8th, though, I do have our first of the top 4 teams, and like I keep on saying, I have Kimi Antonelli. I'll say that first. I think it's going to be a struggle this year for Antonelli. I really do. But I think as the Mercedes continues to improve throughout the year, because I think George Russell is going to put himself in a spot where I think like the top 6 drivers are going to be so close, Andrew. And I think that George is going to put himself in a spot that Mercedes is going to want to keep developing that car to give him a shot to win a World Drivers' Championship. And I think it'll always be a long shot for George in this year. But I think that they're going to continue to upgrade that car throughout the year, whereas other teams aren't. And that's going to create the gap that Kimi's going to need to be able to secure 8th in the standings, essentially, is my thought process.
I have Pierre Gasly in 8th. Okay. Gasly, I've always been on the Gasly train. Great wheelman, very skilled, very underrated. He's he's pulled that Alpine to podiums where it really shouldn't be anywhere near podiums. Same thing with the AlphaTauri. I just think that the guy is very good, very underrated, and I think that's very good. Well, that being said, Alpine will finish 8th in the constructors, and then 7th is Haas, which I've named both drivers already.
Yeah.
So kind of giving an updated picture on that.
In 7th.
And I'm going to say 6th for me in the constructors, since we've already hit both those drivers as well, is Williams.
Okay. In 7th, I basically already explained it. Same situation with Kimi, just for a different driver. I have Liam Lawson.
Yeah. I feel like there's going to be like you said, there's going to be a top 6 drivers, and then ahead of the best of the rest, per se, is going to be Fernando Alonso. Guy's still very good. I don't think Aston Martin's going to throw all their resources to 2026, like you say, and I think Aston Martin's going to finish 5th. But I do think it's going to be very close from 5th, with that battle between Williams, Haas, and Alpine will be lurking there as well.
Yeah. In 6th, like I said, I think all these drivers are going to be very close. I think all these teams are going to be very close. But I think that even in this group, there is one that is a little bit farther out than the rest, and I think that's Mercedes and George Russell.
Mm-hmm. I agree, Ethan, and I think Mercedes, I do have them finishing 4th. But I don't think they'll be anywhere near the big 3.
Yeah. Oh, and I should say, that locks up 4th place in the constructors. For
I just think George Russell. I think Mercedes are aren't gonna be where they need to start the year. Maybe I might make some gains in the mid-year, and they're gonna say, we're ready for just 2026. This era hasn't been good to us with the purposing or whatever.
Porpoising.
Tired. But yeah, with that, they're going to be ready to just turn a new page quicker than I just say, okay, we're not going to do upgrades. That's why Kimi's so lower in the standings too.
Okay.
You have to keep that in mind.
Fair enough. In 5th for me, I have Lewis Hamilton. Adjusting to a new car, adjusting to a new team. I'm not on this train of people thinking like, oh, Lewis is going to run in and become the number 1 driver. No, Charles is Ferrari's golden boy. Lewis isn't going to get preferential driver treatment. At most, it's going to be a 1A, 1B scenario. And Ferrari will say, oh, there's no number 1 driver, but it will secretly be Charles. I don't think there's any world where Lewis gets preferential treatment that helps him jump up the standings. I think he's gonna be very competitive. Like I said, I think all these cars are gonna be very, very close. I could see the the top five drivers in the standings be like in the running late in the season. Maybe not all the way to Abu Dhabi, but like late in the season. Like I could see Lewis fire it up later in the season, but jumping to a new team, everyone else in the top four, if you are keeping notes, everyone else in the top four is staying where they're at.
Mm-hmm.
This is going to be an adjustment early on for Lewis. And if there's anyone that can jump in and, not struggle at all, it's going to be Lewis Hamilton. But there's still that mark against him that these other drivers don't have. And I think that makes it a little easier to put Lewis fifth compared to anyone else in this top five for me.
Mm-hmm. I agree as well. I have Lewis fifth. I think he might be. I feel like there's going to be 4 drivers fighting for the championship. I think Lewis will be just a bit off, but
Fair enough.
maybe 60 points back of fourth.
It's a pretty big gap.
That might be a little high, but the point being is he's going to be a bit off.
Fair enough. In fourth place, I have Oscar Piastri. We still haven't seen it yet, Andrew. We haven't seen Oscar put together a full, complete season. He did a great job last year. He really did. At points, he was even better than Lando. But we haven't seen him put it together yet completely. And will he do it this year? He could, but that's the one thing holding him back. And there's still some issues with him that he hasn't completely ironed out, being consistent fully and tire management fully and all that. Like he fell off the pace at times towards the end of last season, and Lando kind of destroyed him at times last season. I think that Oscar's gonna, for most of the season even, I think that Oscar's gonna close that gap for sure. But yeah, I can't put him in the top 3, not yet anyway.
I think Ferrari's just going to be off of just a half step off of where Max and then the McLarens are going to be. So that's why I have Charles fourth.
Okay.
I just don't see him getting over the hump. Charles Leclerc, I could see him maybe winning as many as 5 races this year. I said as many as 5.
If Charles is winning 5 races, okay.
But I don't know if he'll get to the 5. I think 3 is maybe the magic number for him. But I just think Ferrari's going to be a pace-off. That's why I have him third in my constructors.
Okay. I have Max Verstappen in third, which secures Red Bull third place in the constructor standings. Excuse me, it's late. I am sick. My brain is not working. But Max Verstappen third. I think Red Bull's the 4th fastest car out of this group. I have them finishing third because I think that Liam will be able to outperform Kimi that little bit, and Max is Max. I think he's going to outperform the car a bit, but I still think that car is a lot worse than it was last year. You have a lot of people leaving the team. Not only help me out here, Andrew.
Adrian Newey.
Not only is Adrian Newey leaving the team, but Jonathan Wheatley's leaving the team. Like, there are big names leaving this project here. But this is still Max Verstappen. So I'm not saying he's third because he's washed all of a sudden. I think he's third because he is dragging that car up to that position.
Mm-hmm.
That's my opinion.
That's fair. I am. Are you ready to have your socks knocked off?
Yeah, who's finishing third, Andrew?
Lando Norris.
You're doing this just to make me mad.
No,
Yes,
Ethan.
You are.
You'll see with my. I'll explain it later. Just.
Okay. Do we want to say who's winning the championship? Do we want to go 1 instead of 2?
Sure.
All right. Well, if you listen to the end of our driver draft show, you already know I am taking Lando Norris to win the championship, which means I have Charles Leclerc finishing second. I think that this McLaren is going to be the fastest car for at least the start of the year. This will give Lando the opportunity to make an early lead. And as we saw last year, it's a lot easier to play defense than it is to chase down. And I think that even if the other teams get up to McLaren's level or even overtake McLaren, Lando will be able to play that defense. I think that he's going to have his head in the right place. And if he is leading the championship early on, he'll have that confidence within himself to carry it on the rest of the way. I already talked about how I don't think that Oscar Piastri is as fast as him because he's shown that despite at times he can be, overall he isn't. At the end of last season, Lando was blowing him out of the water in terms of, the timing in races. Like, he was blowing him out of the water. So for that reason, with that car, I have to take Lando Norris. I think that, sure, it's kind of crazy to pick a guy to be this confident in a guy like Lando Norris to win the championship, but I really am. And I have Charles Leclerc second because I think that Ferrari car is going to be really good. I think that he's going to give Lando a good run for his money, but at the start of the season at least, it's just not going to be there. Even if he goes on a run at the end of the season, it's not going to be quite enough to overtake Lando. I'm super confident in this McLaren team, especially at the start of the season, and that's going to be the difference maker for Lando Norris. He's going to be able to take advantage of that this year.
Papaya rules, Ethan.
They're not doing that this year.
Is going to be the reason
That's
why
not a thing.
Max Verstappen is going to win the championship. Because McLaren, they'll have those two knuckles are going to be fighting.
They already said they're not doing papaya rules this year.
Well, that's the thing, is the papaya rule, the lack of papaya rules, Ethan. It's going to get tensions. Fighting for potentially the beginning of a Hamilton-Rosberg rivalry. It's going to let Max go sneak on by and get his fourth straight?
This would be his
Fifth straight consecutive World Drivers' Championship. I think Max is still the very best driver in F1 on talent.
I agree.
Not
I still
even
think
close.
That car's there.
I think he'll drag it to where it needs to be. He'll give the feedback that there needs to be. And Red Bull will be second in constructors, though, to McLaren. Why I have Oscar in front of Lando, Ethan, is this is Oscar's year. He'll figure it out this year. He's clearly got the talent. I think we saw it last year in points. And then McLaren said papaya rules type thing. You're gonna play Lando's game, which was part of the reason why he struggled last year. And when you kind of say, okay, you're playing someone else's game, you kind of just take a backseat. Kind of gets kind of lost.
Not really.
I think so. I think so.
If anything, Oscar took advantage of it and gained from it. He gained from it in Hungary. I guess it equaled out in.
I just think he'll figure it out, and this is the year he jumps Lando.
You can't even say that it equaled out in Monza because, Oscar gained from the whole papaya
well, after
thing.
that, they said, okay, you're gonna take a backseat to Lando after Monza, and then that's what happened. That's what we saw in the results. It wasn't more of an internal thing. So Lando could try and get that championship, and Lando didn't. And I think
papaya rules didn't make Oscar get blown out of the water the way he did at the end of the season.
I think I
can assure you it didn't.
McLaren said, "Okay, Oscar, bow down to Lando." Not in that way, but the point is say, and then Oscar just said, "Oh, well," internally said that kind of made it a lost year. Said, "Okay, I'm just kind of ride this out for the year." And I think he's going to be retooled, refocused, and take over McLaren to some people's surprise, including yours, Ethan.
It would be It would surprise me, which is crazy to say about a guy who's won 4 consecutive championships. I would like to point out that, yes, I do have McLaren, of course, winning the Constructors' Championship, Ferrari in second. You know, you could be right. You know, it's almost, I feel foolish to bet against Max Verstappen. I do. But I just don't think, I think that this year, McLaren's going to have the car, even without... Oscar will be there to help Lando in different ways. And it's gonna help Lando win the championship. Max is gonna be very fast, but I don't know. I just think that McLaren's so fast. I think that Lando is still ahead of Oscar. So, you know, gotta go with my my gut here, I suppose. And you're going with yours. I respect it. That's all we have, though, for this
Long episode.
very, very long
10.
episode.
We had fun at Nat. What was your favorite experience from the weekend? Thing that you did, a question that you asked?
I basically had a one-on-one with Christopher Bell because when he came into the media center to do his media availability, all the other media was pretty much talking to other guys. No one went over to Bell. I was the only one that went over to him, and I basically had a couple question long one-on-one with a guy who won 2 races in a row, now won 3 races in a row. That was pretty enjoyable. Asked him about High Limits, which is Kyle Larson's dirt track series that he'll be competing in Las Vegas. Asked him some other questions, asked him about Phoenix because he's great there, and of course he won there. Asked him about what it would be like to win 3 in a row, which he was like, oh, that doesn't add any pressure or anything, and he proved that it didn't. He was able to win 3 in a row, so that was really cool. But just being there, the sounds, the full experience, the sounds, the smells, the sights, all the senses, all the experiences.
The rubber on the shoe. All that. So just super fun experience being at NASCAR. Thank you to Blaze Radio for basically giving us the opportunity to go out there. Eric List as well.
Huge thank you to him.
Yeah, had a lot of fun. Can't wait to be back in November. But for now, I can't wait to get to bed. So Good night, everyone.
I will say my favorite experience is not something I did with you or with a driver. It's climbing Rattlesnake Hill with Eric. We didn't climb it all, but man, the views were pretty cool.
The views looked good.
Ethan, some point for the championship, we're climbing the whole thing.
All right.
I'm going to hold you to that. So that being said, that was episode 10. I'm Andrew Hayes. That's Ethan Ignatowski. Stay tuned for whenever Blaze has another programming. We'll be here next year. Programming optional spring break. We're here. No one else is going.
I'm tired.
I'm
Goodbye.
Tired.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Good night.
Here's
Goodbye.
a song
Good night.
about the weekend, kind of. Sunny in 75 by Joe Nichols.
To me, it looked like he actually lost the wheel.
The wheel for Ross Chastain is still and perfect.
Wheel on the track.
Did you leave the wheel loose?
You picked a fine time to leave me loose, wheel.